Good morning. Please be seated. My name is John Alonso. I'm the Executive Director of Trinity Center, which is right there. First of all, I want to thank St. Paul's Parish for letting us use the fellowship house for the ministry that we do. Without that support, it probably wouldn't happen, and so we appreciate it very much. I'd like to share a little bit now with you about our work and what we do and the people that we meet. In your mind, when you hear the word homeless, what do you see? I want to share a little bit about some of the people that I know. First of all is Jennifer. Jennifer's been living on the street for many years with disabilities, addictions to drugs and alcohol. She's a local woman who's been disconnected from her family and so has no support system. And in November of 2013, she suffered a stroke. Her recovery was assisted by a Trinity Center care team that was assigned to work with her. And they got really heavily involved organizing her schedule and providing transportation to all her many medical appointments, physical therapy, speech therapy, and trips to the pharmacy. It took many months to help Jennifer get to the point where she could be understood in her speech. And once we were able to get her to a certain point and get her out of the hospital, we were able to find housing for her. And now Jennifer's doing much better in her housing situation. Next, I want to introduce you to Chris. Chris lived on the street for 10 years, addicted to drugs and alcohol. 5 years ago, he decided to begin his recovery by entering a rehab program. Once he completed that program, he was able to set up living arrangements that kept him off the street and reconnected him with his 3 children locally here in Walnut Creek. He's now attending DVC, working on getting a certificate that will allow him to counsel drug users and alcohol abusers. With the help of Trinity Center, Chris was able to get an internship with ANCA Behavioral Health to further his education and his experience. He's now working at Trinity Center as a part-time as a peer counselor. Then there's Greg. Greg is 53 years old. He's lived on the street since his mother passed away when he was 20 years old. That's 33 years on the street. Through our partnership with JFK University and their doctoral counseling program, we were able to get Greg psychological assessment testing and discovered that he had a diagnosis of Asperger's, which is a form of autism. Armed with that information, we were able to file a disability claim on his behalf, and last month it was approved. And now the next step for Greg is to work on getting him into housing and probably a lot of education on how to live in a house since he's been on the street for so long. Then there's Joey Lane. Joey Lane was doing fine until last August. She contracted a bacterial infection in her spine that paralyzed her right leg. She could not continue working her 3 part-time jobs, and eventually she lost her apartment. Trinity Center got her into the shelter where she was able to be housed and to begin her recovery and regain the use of her leg and be able to walk properly. She still can't drive her car because of the weakness in her leg, but she's working on it. And while she was recovering, we had many volunteers, some of who cared for her cat, Jasper, and assisted in transportation for all of her medical needs, and were instrumental in helping her to do a search for housing as well. Also, we were able to help Joey Lane in getting her disability claim approved, which it was about 3 months ago. And now, on June 30th, last Monday, we moved Joey Lane into her own apartment in Martinez. And we moved Jasper in too. Finally, I want to introduce you to to Brian. Brian has a new smile. Through partnering with a local dentist and securing donations, Trinity Center helped Brian get a new set of dentures. We also now have a mobile dental hygienist coming in a couple times a month to do cleaning and screening of our folks. And one of the first things that happens, as I discovered in working with this population, one of the first things that happens is all the dental care goes out the window, and when they start making recovery, it's about the last thing that gets taken care of. So it's really important that we've been able to establish some good dental care for them. I want to give you now a bit of a national perspective on homelessness. At the 2013 Mayor's Conference, there was a 25-city survey done. They projected a 52% increase in homelessness in these 25 cities. The major causes of homelessness are unemployment and underemployment, substance abuse, and mental illness. On a local level, here in Walnut Creek, Contra Costa County, every 2 years we do a homeless count on a certain day in January. In 2011, you can see at the bottom right-hand side of this graph, the count in 2011 was 52. The count in 2013 was 123, a 137% increase, the largest in Contra Costa County. Imagine that increase here in Walnut Creek, where there is no homelessness, if you listen to some. How can you help? You can be an advocate for the homeless. You can volunteer at Trinity Center. You can donate. And you can partner with us in terms of providing services and skills that would help. In one of the ways of volunteering is we have, I want to introduce Ken White, who's a member of St. Paul's and who is now volunteering and wants to share some of his perspectives and his story about his experiences.
Wow, it's different up here. Good morning. Thank you for inviting me to speak about the Trinity Center and the homeless in Walnut Creek. First, I would like to thank St. Paul's for hosting the center and how they are making a difference in so many people's lives by having this ministry at St. Paul's. In Walnut Creek, all you have to do is watch people walking past a homeless person and you will understand why they are invisible. People would see them from a distance, then they would take or look the other way when they passed. My first challenge back then was to approach a homeless person and ask him if he was hungry. If he was, I would take him to a restaurant and we would eat together. The next challenge was to engage them in conversation. Tell them they had God's love and fresh start was there to help them. Some homeless would not talk with me or could not because of mental illness Some homeless I met were passing through Walnut Creek and only wanted a meal. By just doing something for them is all God is asking us to do. Being a counselor at the Trinity Center is rewarding and also a challenge. First, I would ask everyone here not to judge these people as just homeless derelicts who are on drugs, alcohol dependent, or just plain lazy. It just isn't true. And when you interact with these people on a weekly basis, you get to understand how they have a very difficult time fitting into society and knowing where they can go for help. The underlying theme that seems to be a constant with most of the homeless in Walnut Creek is they have some form of mental health problems. One case I remember is a woman who I did an intake form on and who was crying and could hardly speak. It took me an hour to complete the form. It took me an hour, and she was suffering from severe depression and had recently lost both her parents. The following week, I took her to the county hospital in Martinez. After meeting with them, they talked to me and they said, we're going to admit her to the psychiatric ward for observation. She wrote a letter to the hospital authorizing me to park her car, which she lived in the St. Paul's parking lot is where we left it after 8 weeks, and vastly improved from being in the hospital. She returned to pick up her car and is now living with 3 women in a house in the area. I also had a soldier who was discharged from the Army and was a respiratory therapist who was living in a hotel and could not find work and would be living on the street in a week. I found the right person at the VA who handles homeless military people, and they are now finding him a place to live. I also had a case of a runaway boy who was 15, had a very abusive father, and ran away from home in Oregon. He was headed to Los Angeles to visit friends when he stopped by the Trinity Center. While he had a meal, we sat in the grass and talked about God for an hour. He told me before leaving he would call his mother, tell her not to worry. And he was safe. Most people would be surprised at how many normal people we see at the Trinity Center. Every week there's a new and different problem that John Alonso, his staff, and volunteers have to face each week. We all wear many different hats and have to be pretty flexible to handle the myriad of problems. I invite everyone here to come to the Trinity Center and let me introduce you to some of the homeless people I know. You will be amazed at how nice they are. We need volunteers one morning or afternoon a week to be counselors. Help is needed in the clothing and food pantry area, plus drivers to provide transportation when needed. Currently, we have about 30 volunteers from churches in the area that help at the Trinity Center. St. Paul has just 3, including me, that volunteer. This is a wonderful ministry, and you are just doing what God asked us to do, to serve and to help the poor and homeless. The Trinity Center is more than a hot meal and a warm shower. It is home to many of these people. I know because I talked with them and they told me that for many it was the only real home they have ever had. At the Trinity Center, they feel safe, cared for, and that is all Jesus is asking us to do. Thank you.
Just in closing, I want to thank you all for your attention. We probably ran over a little bit than your normal homily time, so I apologize for that. I will be available in the hall afterwards to answer any questions or set up a chance for you to come over and visit, whatever you need. And I would like to just close by saying that, as Ken mentioned, Trinity Center has over 30 volunteers currently. And I would say that, estimate that about 95% of those people have made a decision to help at Trinity Center because it's part of their faith journey. And that's what led them there. And I think what they're trying to do is what Jesus spoke of when he referred to his flock and leaving the 99 and going out and finding that lost one, that misfit, and bringing that person home. And that's what we are trying to do at Trinity Center. And these volunteers that come and help us, what they're trying to do is hear the gospel and make a difference. And we invite you to do the same. Thank you very much.